Hey Toku Faithful, I know I usually don't review newer stuff unless it's on Toku Riffs Live, but I'm trying out some new stuff and I wanted to give this a try. I wanted to talk about Kong Skull Island since I brought it up a few times in past installments of WHITWOT. Initially I thought it was just going to be another loose remake of the 1933 classic with a Jurassic World filter and more action, and in some ways it is that, but to my surprise it was a straight up action fest packed with kaiju goodness. I'll break it down as best I can. There are some minor spoilers ahead, so turn back now if you must. The story follows a group of researchers, military escorts, and a photojournalist traveling to map out an uncharted island in the South Pacific. But, big surprise, they soon find out the island is inhabited by giant monsters. This movie sort of falls into the same vein as movies like Aliens or Predator and has the same basic setup. Military goes in on a routine mission, finds ungodly monsters, mayhem ensues. That's not exactly a bad thing, and I think it's a good setup for a kaiju movie. I think what makes this movie work is that they didn't try to modernize it like they did with Godzilla 2014. And yes, there were some connections to that movie, but I'll get to that later. The film is set at the very end of the Vietnam War, and it feels very much like a war movie at the beginning. And the soundtrack is a bonus. Seriously, I forgot I was watching a monster movie at moments. It was that good. Then Kong shows up and blindsides you with a beatdown. I joked about the cast before, but they were really good. Tom Hiddleston was surprisingly believable as the military tracker. Sam Jackson was great as always. John C. Reilly made for a good comic relief as the stranded pilot who was behind the times. And Brie Larson, who just won an Academy Award of all things, was not a stereotypical damsel in distress. When I first saw the trailer, I honestly thought she was going to be the stereotypical Fay Wray type of character Kong falls in love with and takes off with, but it never really came to that. They have some scenes together, but it doesn't play out the way you think it does. Hell, she even had some badass moments in the movie. Now let's get to the real star of the movie. Kong looked great. The CGI does its job, and they even show off how he has some battle scars from previous fights he's had before the military even showed up. All the other island monsters look fantastic, and the skull crawlers look fearsome as hell. I think these things look even more terrifying than Goldar does in the new Power Rangers movie coming up. The trailer may fool you into thinking it's just humans versus Kong throughout the movie. Well, it really isn't. It's a good balance between guerrilla warfare, pun kind of intended, and giant monster battles. Kong gets into some major slugfests throughout the film, and you just gotta see them for yourself. These were some of the best kaiju battles I've seen in a long time. These battles were even better than the ones in the Godzilla movie. They made the fights between Godzilla and Muto look like nothing. Speaking of which, I might as well talk about the Big G. Are they setting up Godzilla vs. Kong? Yes. There are some subtle references to the 2014 Godzilla movie sprinkled throughout the film. You just have to listen for them. And big time spoiler ahead. Turn back now. You've been warned. In the post-credit scene, yes there is one, they show pictures of cave paintings with Godzilla's likeness and the likeness of a few other Toho monsters. I'm not going to say which ones. And basically they're setting up that the king of the monsters is going to cross paths with King Kong. Bottom line, this movie exceeded my expectations. I can't wait to see what they do next, and this movie was better than Godzilla 2014. Hell, it's just as good as Pacific Rim in terms of Ameritoku. I may be a little biased since I'm a sucker for war movies, and this movie is set in a certain time period, which is always a plus for me. But it wasn't overly dramatic or as preachy as Godzilla was. Say what you will about Warner Brothers and the DC films, which I actually don't mind by the way, but they are crushing it right now with the Ameritoku kaiju films. Godzilla was decent, Pacific Rim was awesome, and Kong Skull Island was a blast. Somebody there knows what us Toku fans like, and they know how to deliver it. So do yourself a favor, go see this one, support it, you will not regret it. Well, that's all for this week. See ya.
No!